Political analysts are now starting to crunch the numbers on what happens if Mr. Obama cannot carry these states, among others, on Election Day. Joining me now, Simon Rosenberg, the director of the New Democrat Network, a left-leaning think tank and a former Clinton campaign advisor, and radio talk show host Ben Ferguson. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. So this is sort of brass tacks analysis, right? Because you can do the national approval ratings, Ben, but what's more interesting, I guess, and what's more real is when you do state to state, because at the end of the day, he's got the electoral map to get to 270 votes. And now the results come out, for now, that he's lost ground in several key states, including, just take a look at the numbers. Ohio, his approval drop in the past 2 years has gone down 17%. In Florida, another key state, it has gone down 14%. And in Virginia, which he won, which was unusual because usually that goes red, he's down 17%. What do you make of it? What do you make of it, Ben?
Well, I mean, you look at this and look at the unemployment numbers. Florida, for example, is at 10.7%. Look at, for example, Nevada, a place where he's had success. They've got unemployment rates the highest by a state in the country right now, above 12.7%. So you look at this map and where he's having problems. It's in states where he has unemployment issues as well. And remember, it was a year ago today that Barack Obama walked out in front of a microphone and said, I've got my economic team on top of this, and I'm going to give you a plan on how we're going to fix it, quote unquote, in the days and weeks ahead. Well, guess what? He's got his days and weeks ahead speech coming up again. It's a rerun of last year. And the American people are realizing, I'm unemployed. I'm having a hard time finding a job. We got 5 Americans applying for every one job that's listed on average now in this country. He's got to fix that problem or he's not going to win these states.
When you see this, Simon, you see these numbers, 17-point hit in Ohio, percentage point, I should say, Virginia 17 percentage points, Florida 14 percentage points, all states that he won pretty handily in the last presidential election. What does it tell you?
This is going to be a very competitive presidential election. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think everything's up for grabs. The Senate, the House, the presidency are all going to be up in 2012. It's, we've seen 3 consecutive elections where the party in power has been voted out of power because of the underperformance of the economy. And I think if the economy a year from now feels like it's getting better, people feel like progress being made, Barack should get reelected. If things feel like they're getting worse or that we're stuck in mud, it's going to be a very tough election for him.
Ben, let me ask you this. Would you concede that President Obama has, in part, to some extent, stopped the bleeding, that he has arrested the shedding of jobs that we saw when he first took office?
I don't know if I can go that far. And what I mean by that is he spent so much money to stop the bleeding. Remember, he said last summer was going to be the summer recovery, give him $1 trillion. It didn't work. The numbers went higher. This is the same guy with the first stimulus that said, give me $1 trillion and I promise you unemployment won't go above 8.6%. Look at it now. It's still above 9%. I think the private sector's creating jobs. He's trying to say the government's saving jobs. We've never had a president do that in this country, actually walk out and say, well, I may not be creating jobs, but I'm saving jobs. You talk to average Americans, they don't feel like the president, quote-unquote, saved their jobs. And again, he gave the same speech a year ago today that he's going to give in a couple days. He said, we're going to have a recovery. My team's going to fix it. You're going to hear more about it after Labor Day. It's the same plan, and it didn't work the last time.
What I'm trying to get at, Simon, is it does seem, if you look at the data, it does seem like he has, we were losing more jobs when he took off, shortly after he took office, than we are now. And he's been trying to make that point. But it doesn't seem to be resonating. It doesn't seem to be convincing people that he is improving the economic situation.
Well, because things are better, but they're not a lot better. And I think the American people have a fair take on what's going on. Barack Obama, there is clearly some significant economic success in his first couple of years. Things could have gotten a whole lot worse. But they're not where they need to be for him to feel comfortable about his presidency and about his reelection.
How on earth does he turn that around, Simon? how on earth does he turn that? It's such a huge problem we have in this country economically right now. Can he do anything about it now?
Look, we've had 11 years of no wage growth. The problems in the American economy began long before Barack Obama's presidency, and and go way back, all the way back to the beginning of the previous decade. And so I think you're right. The American people feel these are big economic challenges. They're looking for big solutions. I think the president's going to come out with another speech next week about a jobs plan. I think it's going to begin another very intense period of debate between the two parties about what the proper economic course is.
It's not
let me finish.
to be big.
And I think, I think it's going to be an ambitious speech. I actually disagree. I think it's going to be an ambitious speech.
The leaks we've had so far suggest
and I think all I'm saying is that it's going to begin another period of incredible
I'll give you the last word, Ben. Just let him finish his point.
Economic debate that is necessary to forge the right policies for the country.
Go ahead, Ben.
Simon proved my point by saying and blaming that the last 11 years were terrible, when in fact they weren't terrible, and the American people know that. And if you continue to blame past administrations instead of coming up with new ideas, it tells you their idea bank is empty right now. This president does not know how to create jobs. And when you have Simon and other guys saying, well, it's still those other guys that was bad for 11 years, the American people here, there's nothing new coming to the table. The president can be ambitious as he wants in his speech next week, but guess what? He did the same ambitious speech a year ago. It didn't work, and the American people are feeling the pain while they're on vacation.
Well, it's interesting to see, these key states. I mean, there's sort of a harbinger of the election, and obviously Florida and Ohio, not to mention Virginia. All presidential candidates pay attention to what's going on there, and you can bet the White House is looking at these numbers as well, courtesy of Gallup. Guys, thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Thanks.
Well, there are some chilling new details in the